Good afternoon. This is John, and this is a Homestead Diary. What you just saw is a neat little trick that I learned, I don't know, however many years ago when I lived in a place where you wanted to keep your gloves on because it was cold, but you can't operate these fancy iPhones without your skin touching the screen. So what did I do? I used my nose, and it worked, and it's, I don't know, it's silly. That's your free tip for the day. I don't know. Just thought I'd point that out. Anyway, I'm in the greenhouse. It is icy in southern Missouri today, and I don't know if you can see the ice here as you come down. It is definitely coming down. It's sticking, but hey, it's just ice, and we're staying at home in the homestead because that's what you do if at all possible when it is doing this kind of stuff outside. It's been coming down for, I don't know, maybe 3 hours now, 4 hours, something like that. Yesterday it was in the 50s, I think. And then the temperature just dropped steadily during the day. It was around 3 o'clock. We were in town. It was around 55. And between that, the time that I actually paid attention to the temperature and the time that and the time that we got back home, it was a couple of hours, and it had dropped from 55 to 41. And it is now, I think it's around 28 degrees, something like that. And there's this nice icy sleet coming down. It's not so much freezing rain anymore. That happened earlier in the morning. Now it's just kind of bouncing off the different surfaces and, stove out in the yard because, Missouri, or at least southern Missouri. I don't know what it's like in northern Missouri. But it is a beautiful day still. Came out actually to take care of the chickens because I'm concerned about the fact that their food is covered up in ice. And so I decided to bring out a little bit of extra feed. I'm using the chickens to groom the landscape. And so I'm making a point of, when I feed them, I find the tallest patches of grass, and I toss it in there. And they scratch around, and they knock things down. And it's very helpful because it helps me see what is in that grass. This place is... it's been lived on for a while, and there's all sorts of piles of lumber and piles of rock, and there's an outdoor boiler and that needs to be gotten going. And the guy who was here before, I guess, stockpiled, random wood scraps and that sort of thing, which would have been awesome, 10 years ago, but they're half rotten now. And we're just going to end up disposing of them in our little bonfires. But yeah, that's what's going on here. It seems like it was colder earlier this morning. And I don't mean real early. I mean 9:30-ish, 10:30-ish, something like that. It's definitely warmed up a little bit. But it just kind of keeps coming down. It's predicted to taper off this evening and then start back up tomorrow morning. And then it should be over. And that's okay. I like the variation. I enjoy the fact that we actually have days of winter, and where it's in the wintertime, and then sometimes we have what feel like springtime days, and the kids get to roll around in the yard, and hey, because it froze last night, there are no ticks, there's no chiggers, there's no bugs of any kind, except for the ladybugs, and they live in our walls, and that's okay because they eat stuff that we don't like. They don't eat all of it, but they do a pretty good job of eating a lot of the stuff. Looking forward to planting some gardens and just taking ladybugs out there and letting them go and letting them go to work. Here's a little work that my wife has been doing, limbing up trees and making places for the kids to play. There's a lot of rose bushes out here, and that would be cool if they were small and they had nice blooms on them and that sort of thing. But left alone to grow, they get absolutely huge. There's one out here that the trunk on it, and I call it a trunk because it was like a tree, it was as big around as my wrist. That's just crazy for a rose bush. I've heard of rosewood. I'm assuming that is what it comes from, that sort of... there goes a squirrel. I imagine that's what that comes from, is that sort of growth in a rose bush. Hit me in the comments if you have any ideas about that. It's here, and if I can use it for something besides just burning it, might not be a bad idea. And looking up there, there's Terrence, big old livestock guardian dog. He is awesome. Since we've gotten here, we haven't lost any chickens to predation. We had one die one time, but chickens die. That's just kind of what they do. That's their thing. As they say, a sick bird is a dead bird. And I don't even know that I'd seen that bird sick, but we got about 50 of those critters running around, and you can't keep an eye on all of them, although they are quite entertaining to watch. Here are some of those wonderful rose bushes growing up into the trees. And someday we'll get to these. I mean, they're at the edge of the field, and so they don't really pose that much of a risk, but they are kind of a pain. And really, if we want to open things up and create this, park-like setting where we can alternately run around in the woods with the kids or hunt because we have a clear field of fire, so to speak, that makes sense to gradually weed them out. And so, yeah, it just kind of keeps going on and on and on. Enjoying life here at the homestead. This is John with the Homestead Diary. Y'all have a blessed day.